Okay, welcome. I am sorry that I'm unable to actually physically attend the online teaching conference there in beautiful San Diego coming up here. Looks like in about a month or less. I was looking forward to that, but I had to cancel out because I had some other familial issues, which I will not go into detail about. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank both ET, the OTC moderator, and also the online teaching conference sponsors and people for inviting me to do this initially. And thanks to the captioner. And I suppose the thanks should go to Blackboard Collaborate as well because I use it all the time. I want to take a couple of minutes before I get started and just make sure that I've got some relevant links that you should feel free once you review the recorded archive to go through as a audience or spectator. And I'll go ahead and take just a couple seconds to do that as quickly as I can. And if I happen to miss one, I'll pop it in a little bit later here. But what I'm putting in the chat room right now are some active links. And you can go back and refer to these. These aren't necessarily in any particular sequence, but I'll try to make it clear which ones would be appropriate for what particular subject matter or slide I'm talking about at the time. And we'll almost be done with that. Just a couple more here. And I think I'll about do it. I might put one or two more in there, but hopefully those will be available to you when you look at the archive. Now, actually, part of my presentation, of course, does involve ways of encouraging student engagement online, so I'm going to certainly try to stay on task. And once again, thank you for joining me in case you actually do happen to see this little recording at some future date. It's going to be pretty much like it would have been, I think, if I'd done it face-to-face, although for those of you who actually use something like Collaborate, video conferencing, to know that it's a little bit of a different kind of a beast. But the part of actually, I think, waking your class up ever so slightly is doing something which, frankly, I don't really like to do. But it looks like I do have some enabled video here. So I usually try to say hello to the students for a couple of moments. And when you do this, you've got to make absolutely sure that you don't become somehow, because I noticed that when people do it, they become a little bit distracted by looking at themselves. So that's just a tip. Try not to do that. But I also don't think that the talking head throughout the entire presentation is necessary at all, and I think it probably can actually distract from your audience in a way. It all depends upon what you happen to be doing. But in any case, thank you again for joining me. The reason that I have this picture of beautiful Sedona, used to be beautiful up until a couple of weeks ago, and actually it still is because I happen to be conducting this session remotely. This is one of the wonderful things about using Collaborate, and also certainly CCC Confer, to give another plug to them. There are several institutions, and certainly Blackboard Learning Management System has Blackboard Collaborate built into it, generally speaking. But the way the CCC Confer people do it is great, because they set you up with your schedule, take care of odds and ends for you, allow you to be able to communicate the specific information your students need when they go to log in. So kudos to the CCC Confer people. I've had nothing but wonderful results from my interaction with them. And so that's a little advertisement. But in any case, this picture was taken a couple of days ago. It's just looking pretty much to the north of my current location. And you might be able to see a little plume of smoke and actually what looks like ordinary rain clouds. This is a pretty clear day, steady about 78 degrees. Otherwise, this is looking north from my location in Sedona toward Flagstaff. And that little plume of smoke has grown bigger and smaller and bigger and smaller. So some of you maybe who have been following the news, certainly I know that in San Diego, Carlsbad, places like that, a couple of weeks ago, it was pretty severe with regard to the fires. So this one is now reported to have devastated quite a few thousand acres. I think probably a tear will come to my eye when I go to some of my favorite hiking spots up there toward Flagstaff. and see the burned remnants of what used to be a beautiful forest. Now, fortunately, I don't think anybody's home has been lost, and there's been no damage to human beings. Some property damage, of course, but it looks like it's going to return to normal. So I thought I would just relate that to you, if for no other reason than to sort of extol the virtues of being able to live just about wherever you have the internet and conduct your classes. So I actually counted a few more ways I popped in here than simply 5 ways. But one of the things that I do is teach pretty consistently remote courses to Coastline Community College down in Southern California, as well as Cal State University Dominguez Hills. I teach principally critical thinking with both of those institutions, humanities, ethics, entirely 100% online. And a couple of years ago, I took on an assignment with the University of Alaska up in Fairbanks. And there I have collaborate sessions when we're in session. We just ended a couple of weeks ago. 2 times a week. So the students usually have really small classes, which is great, probably no more than about 12. But we can certainly have a lot of interaction 2 times a week. We use phone telephone conferencing. We also use the online audio function. Generally works just fine. Sometimes there's some bandwidth issues. Some of my students up in Alaska are on remote islands. If they have to go to the store, sometimes they have to take a helicopter. So they have to plan that out. They have a medical situation. Sometimes, it's just really a major undertaking. But the playlist that goes along with this presentation is hyperlinked right up here. Hopefully you'll be able to see the magical mystery finger pointing. It's rather obscure, but if you click on that, you should be able, in the archive, to go to the playlist that has been put up on 3C Media, also a wonderful organization to put your academically oriented videos up. And that's one of the reasons that I've now begun to make much, much more use of it. I'm a fairly regular YouTube user, but I have to say I think the quality and also the content that most of us who instruct put up is probably going to find it better if you're not using it already to do it on 3C Media. Another great organization, runs extremely efficiently. So in any case, I'm a 100% online instructor, teach entirely online, primarily with Collaborate, and of course various learning management systems, but most often with Blackboard. So I thought I'd start out with a bit of a definition. I'm sure that if you have studied this at all, you've probably discovered that there are other definitions of something called student engagement. I think it's kind of like the term critical thinking. Back in the 90s, people were trying to figure out what it was. Quite a few different definitions of critical thinking. I think there are probably several definitions of student engagement, too, that are quite usable. After poring through the literature for the past several weeks and even months, I thought that this one was actually a pretty good one. Student engagement refers to the degree of attention, curiosity. Some terms to highlight there: attention, curiosity, interest level. I like the term optimism placed in here. And passion, of course. You know, for those of you who study a little bit of ancient philosophy, you can pretty well see that there's a degree to which this definition sort of takes into consideration what the ancient philosopher Plato would have said about the personality or the soul, the 3-part soul: reason, passion, and also to a large extent emotion or appetite. Those things are actually placed in here in an interesting, indirect way. This is perhaps one of the reasons why this appealed to me. In a way, this definition of engagement appeals to the whole person, certainly not just to their intellect, certainly not just to their emotion. To some extent, it appeals to their appetite for knowledge. So there's a kind of way of hooking up this definition, even with an ancient philosophers such as Plato, or for that matter, his master Socrates. We can use the Socratic method in these very interactive, engaging moments online to the advantage of the students, and I also think to the advantage of the instructor. In any case, the optimism, passion the students show when they are learning or being taught which extends to the level of motivation they have to learn and progress in their education, and in the particular course. And I think I do have a couple of examples where, at least in my own experience, that is exactly what's happened when I've made an effort to try to concentrate a little bit more on engagement. So, for example, if we were actually conducting this particular session with several students, I'd probably be asking you questions. I'd probably be polling you just a little bit. I'll give you some very brief sound bites on some of that stuff. If you're not doing it in your Collaborate course, I recommend that you consider doing it. It encourages attention. It encourages a little bit of focus on the parts of the students. In fact, sometimes the students even like polling. How and why do you do this? Well, I think it's very important to try to enliven lectures, presentation materials with video clips, cartoons, stories. That's not only true of you, the instructor, presenter. Certainly it can be true of the students who are responding to each other and also to you. Encouraging to utilize things like YouTube and many, many, many other applications and platforms to respond to lectures and discussions. Gets them a little bit more involved. Also gives them a bit of a challenge as well. Of course, I have found that sometimes the stereotypes we have of the so-called millennial individual don't often hold. Sometimes you tend to believe that if you present an opportunity to a younger student, let us say, or a student of a specific generation, if you will, that has been stereotyped, that all of a sudden they're going to say, well, I do Facebook all the time, so this is going to be a piece of cake. That's not been my experience. So I have to tempt them a little bit with some bonus kudo extra credit points normally. Every now and then, I would say probably 5% of my students, so I ask to maybe do a YouTube video and a discussion thread, will immediately respond, but to get a good number of them to really get involved, I have to get a little bit of extra credit points. Of course, it's probably just human nature. But in any case, it's not as though people are going to automatically raise their hand and say, virtually or otherwise, oh boy, I'm just going to go for that. Oftentimes, I think I find with online students, they pretty much are trying to tuck their education into a very busy schedule. They want to do as much as necessary in order to get the best grade they possibly can. Sometimes things like this look like it's a little bit more involved than they would like to pursue. So I think that giving some extra credit points or building it right into the lesson plan is an important thing, except you've got to be careful. Not everybody has the equipment necessary or the feeling of confidence or the confidence level necessary to do a YouTube video and present it to everybody else. Some people are a little shy. So those are things to take into consideration when you're trying to prepare students to become involved. I wanted to focus a little bit upon just real quick, how do you do it? Now, this is not me, but this is very much like me. When I go into my garage and I put up a fairly inexpensive green screen on the wall of the garage and get my little JVC camera out and try to get the lighting, and if you're going to do this, I'm not going to go into detail here, but I think it's important information to you. If you're going to do something like green screen to put into your video lectures and presentations, just make sure that the lighting is good. And that's to some extent a subjective judgment or assessment. Some people get very sophisticated. Like the students, I'm doing a lot of other things too, so I don't have a whole lot of time to invest in Spielberg-like production values. But to actually come up with a fairly decent little kind of interesting episode for your video lectures, if you just get a fairly inexpensive green screen, possibly from Amazon.com, get your camera set up. Of course, you need to have a program. My program of choice is Pinnacle, but I'm not here to advertise it, mind you. But there are others where you can do chroma key. And it's fairly simple, fairly straightforward, fairly cost-effective. And in any case, of course, what I do, usually because I only film half of myself, I can have my sweatpants on and my shirt with a tie, and they will only see the top half of my body, generally speaking, when I have it cast against the backdrop on chroma key. That makes it very comfortable for me because then I can just take that shirt off and go on a good hike in the Sedona Hills right afterwards. This is kind of what it might look like. Hopefully you're able to see this as I expand it just a little bit. The backdrop actually was taken up at Oak Creek Stream, a place called Banjoville, and I could not, the day I needed to do a presentation on environmental ethics, actually go there physically, but I happened to have the video. So I went to my garage and superimposed myself over it, and there is an example of that on the playlist in case you want to take a look. It doesn't turn out too badly, and the reason I advertise it is because my students actually do get back to me. Sometimes they'll say things like, gee, that's something we don't often see in our course. Somebody actually apparently, right there, if you will, in the field, although I'm not, actually. There are students that just seem to basically get a little bit more interested when they kind of have something more to look at than just simply a talking head. And I don't mean to disparage a talking head, mind you, because I certainly do a fair share of it myself. And this is another example, if you decide you're going to go in this direction. And again, this is the how to do it, and it does seem to engage students to some extent. You can get freebie video material, short segments. You can Google it. You can get chroma key backdrops that are free. No copyright issues involved. You can superimpose yourself over them for a few moments of introductory lecture. But my tip to you is don't get too much involved in just filming yourself. Splice it into a PowerPoint or use something like Camtasia. Another example of a green screen right here. Even my lighting is really cheap Home Depot type $3.50 lights that tend to work. Sometimes it doesn't always come out as nicely as one would like, but it still works. Why would you use this? Why would you want to use video, or for that matter, audio in your presentations, like music and other things? I do think it is true that video can create more of an emotional connection. I think that's very important from the point of view of you connecting to your students and the students connecting to each other. They have some images. There is something that I think is captured a little bit more by at least a virtual presence of an instructor or a classmate than would be if you just simply were confined to text in your communications with other people online. Video, I think, can be a valuable method for demonstrations. You can use something like Camtasia, do a series of screen captures, show people, which is typically what I do, how to navigate a course. I do that quite a bit with Coastline Community College in Seaport. Provide an orientation video. I give about 30 seconds of a talking head or myself in front of a chroma key, and then go right into a screenshot or video of screenshots of how to navigate the course. And I send that orientation video out generally about a week before the class actually begins, with information about what kind of book you need, how I'm going to grade. I try to get examples. Again, certain programs allow you to do that very effectively. And the students, several of them will thank me, some of them profusely, for giving them that information right up front. So by the time the class actually starts, they've got a feel for it. And the reason I send it out early is because in many instances there are policies about when a course begins. In some cases, the course only begins the very first day of the course. And I've always found when that's the case that there's about a week or two of lag time. Students often don't know what book to get, where the syllabus is. So to make a nice little video, pleasant, to the point as much as possible, that seems to really help them quite a bit get fully intellectually, emotionally prepared for the course, and also at the rate when it comes to kind of content and the expectations. Video helps model soft skills, things that you can show people fairly easily and readily. I've done that when I've showed people how to use a telescope or some apparatus. I think it also tends to break up content. So sometimes what you could do is embed a little video in a web page at a certain point. If you have a lot of text that students are expected to read online, put a little video in there. Sometimes a funny little video, or maybe even a cartoon of some sort that you've either gotten from the internet or maybe made yourself, can get the student focused a little bit. They can take their mind off of the struggle they might be having as well. So kind of a two-edged sword there. In a way, a video planted in a web page might distract them from the reading. At the same time, it might give them a break so that they can go back to their reading or whatever they're doing. I found this very interesting little chart. I think it kind of puts things into a nutshell. I'm focusing mostly on the part of this chart that is talking about engaging students, but effective learning, there's so many ways of approaching it. I had done something on it like this originally. I called it an ecology of learning, where you have these systemic elements, all of which are synergizing, to use a word that's sometimes overused, to produce an ideal learning environment. But asking questions, using the Socratic method virtually, for example, translating that into video and audio is essentially what I guess I'm talking about here with this aspect of the 4 E's of effective learning, which I won't go into in any detail at this point. I think it's important to recognize that students need to be focused. Getting their attention can be done easily, I think, with video, effectively with video. Reacquainting them with material that has been covered previously is a good idea. I think that probably this goes against the grain of those who think that multitasking is really wonderful. I tend to believe that there may not be such a thing as multitasking, actually. I don't think people actually function as efficiently if they're doing multiple things simultaneously as they would if they were just simply able to take a deep breath and concentrate on one thing. But of course you want that one thing to be as interesting as you can possibly make it. Video helps us to do that. When you make a video for your students or encourage them to make videos themselves, little sample stories, without getting into inordinate detail, personal vignettes, anecdotal stories that relate to the material. Then bringing your material to a real-life level. There's so many things going on in the news. The internet allows us to be able to copy and paste the specific instances, hopefully without violating anybody's copyright. There are a lot of freebie downloadable YouTube videos that you can edit and pop into a presentation, newsreel footage, interactive exercises. I had not been doing that up until about 2 years ago, as much as I've been doing it now, and I find that really does help students get prepared for a course and anticipate what the expectation is, and learn a little bit more. Movie clips again, I've used segments from Monty Python in my critical thinking courses. The great one is something you may or may not have heard of called the Argument Clinic. It should be related to one of the links I popped into the chat room somewhere off of one of his major links. And when you take a look at the Argument Clinic, it's really, really old, back in the 60s, but it just gives a perfect example of what an argument in logic really isn't. And yet, what happens is that the interlocutors in a Monty Python segment actually define an argument from a critical thinking point of view. Then they go on to do their very hilarious thing. That one has captured a lot of people's attention right up front. Something that is probably referred to by other vocabulary in other contexts, we can call it here mastery quizzing. Some of you probably are already doing this. Pre-quizzes, post-quizzes, something that may or may not give them credit. Sometimes a little fun quiz that doesn't necessarily have any credit assigned to it is something that the student really benefits from. And of course, this is a way of testing the before and after, and to do a kind of a compare and contrast. It produces a certain amount of interactivity and reflection on what a student needs to know, what they thought they knew, or what they actually knew, and what they're going to come to know. And an example of this, which is not from me, but from something that I found from one of my colleagues, actually, who has a couple of videos that looks like up on 3C Media himself. This is an example of how to do a poll, or what you might want to do if you do a poll. I often have students do true-false or something when they enter a course. Then if they're using something I collaborate, like we're using today, I won't go into that at this point, but just to give you an idea, each of the student participants would click on a yes or a no, or true or false, or however the poll is set up to get the answer. And then you can share the results with everybody if you desire to do that. This can be done, really, I think, in the best way to do it personally, from my experience, is not as credit so much, but as just to give the student the opportunity to see where they are. Ease the anxiety level. You know, tell them this is not necessarily something we're going to grade. I just want to see how you're doing, and I want you to see how you're doing. If you do a couple of these, if you're not doing it on a regular basis, and the student doesn't quite know what to expect, but that it might occur, it kind of keeps them a little bit on their feet. You know, will we have a little quiz? And then, of course, there's that, I think, very healthy competition that can occur when students then begin to discuss what the correct answer may or may not be after the results of the polling are in. So, once again, that keeps people focused. And if you do that at the beginning of your course, let's say that you are doing, not unlike what I do, hour-long sessions or hour-and-a-half-long sessions using Collaborate. The time just goes really, really quickly. The students get involved. They start asking questions. You know, one question leads to another question. Sometimes they answer each other's questions when you use polling like this. So I found it to be actually students teaching each other. That's a big version of it. This is an example of something I decided to go ahead and do with the course I was teaching to some students in South Korea. It just ended a couple of weeks ago. And of course, I was apprised of the fact that it seems to be somewhat true, that there's a slight cultural difference with respect to how students understand what their role is in a classroom. And so there's a little bit more passivity, I have to admit. And to bring students into more of an active engagement, I started running these short, fun quizzes. And it was all based on vocabulary terms, which I pushed out to their Seaport course. And as I did this a couple of times, they were asking me when we're going to have the quiz. They wanted to do it right up front. They wanted to see how well they were doing. I was really surprised at the very positive response. So it was, you know, they needed a stimulus to get my students kind of talking just a little bit more in the chat room and with me when I have my hour sessions with the Korean students. And they ended up doing just a really fine job. Great little program that was being run there. Now, I'm sure some of you have seen this one before, right? Now, what's fun about this is called the 9-dot problem. And since I'm not really looking at my students when they're remotely located, and I tell them, okay, we are going to have a little bit of an icebreaker. Here are the instructions, and I deliberately do not post the instructions as a text. I just give them the audio instruction. And I tell them that probably a good idea here is to get a blank piece of paper, try to put those 9 dots on a piece of paper symmetrically, and here's what you're supposed to do. Go ahead and give it a try. Maybe you've seen this, maybe you haven't. Without lifting your pencil from the paper or your pen or your marker, draw 4 straight lines connecting all the dots. Now maybe you've seen this one before. And what I've discovered is I'll have a couple of students who have in fact seen this before. Maybe in a textbook, maybe another instructor who did it. Maybe they did it for fun at the dinner table. Who knows? But the funny part of this puzzle is they've seen it, but they don't remember how to do it. And it's interesting to me that that is often the case. There are probably, let's say, in a classroom of 50 students, 2 of them might get it within about 10 or 15 minutes in my experience. So what do? Without lifting your pencil, draw 4 straight lines connecting all the dots. So what we can do with a whiteboard, which is a lot of fun, share the whiteboard privilege with everybody and maybe give students an opportunity to go ahead and encourage them not to be too terribly concerned about getting the right or the wrong answer. Go ahead and put those lines in. I mean, I'm using a highlighter right here, but there are other choices, of course, you can make. And draw 4 straight lines connecting all the dots, and see if you can accomplish that. So, okay, let's try it. So anyway, to make a very long story short, you usually find people trying to do this, and then I erase it and have somebody else give it a try, or maybe we'll just have everybody kind of get in and collaborate and then begin to talk to each other about how to solve this, what would appear to be fairly simple problem. I think that this little problem actually has a lot of symbolic meaning, particularly when you finally see the result. Now, if you've never seen this before and you actually figured it out within the past couple of minutes, good for you. Good for you. That might actually be translatable into an SAT score, or maybe you might be able to take the results and send them off to Mensa, for all I know. I don't think a person should regard this as an IQ test. I think you treat it as fun, and then probably the more important thing is to have students have the opportunity to interact. You get familiar with the whiteboard, because I do try to train my online students in the basic use of Collaborate, so as to give a presentation at the end of the semester using it. I think it's a wonderful use of Collaborate for students. But now you're going to see the results. You probably guessed this already. That's one of the solutions. I'm aware of at least one other one. But at the very least, you can kind of then go on to talk about this. Now, we're talking about how you can relate this to a variety of things. I teach critical thinking. I also teach psychology. Both of those things actually can be put together very readily in terms of not only perception, but interpretation of instructions. Without lifting your pencil, draw 4 straight lines connecting all the dots. You try to follow those instructions to a T. Your task is to try to connect all of those dots with 4 straight lines. Look how you have to do it. With this particular example, you actually have to, as we say, to use a worn-out phrase, almost literally think outside the box. And it becomes an opportunity to be able to discuss other things that are going on in course. What is critical thinking about? Well, part of critical thinking is creative problem solving. Certainly in psychology, you want to employ creativity in the solution of problems, and also take a look at how you interpret instructions, and how we have a tendency sometimes to go back to tried and true methods of solving problems. And of course, you can have all sorts of wonderful discussions about this that continue on, by the way, in my experience, throughout the semester. This little puzzle, particularly when people are first exposed to it, people will go back to it and say, wow, that reminds me of that puzzle. Gee, I just learned a little bit more. So, simple thing, and what's I've noticed is a little hard if you don't know the name of the puzzle to set as we're talking about it on Collaborate and Google it. What do you do to Google that? That's another challenge. Well, if you know it's a 9-dot problem, then it's really easy. The proverbial 9-dot problem. Every now and then I'm sure that some of my students would cobble together a phrase that will allow them to get a picture of this on Google Images somewhere. But if you don't really give it a name, just say, oh, try this problem, draw these 9 dots. It's not as easy to find on Google. And of course, I have no control over that. And we can have further jokes with students about, it didn't seem to take you too terribly long to solve that problem you never solved before. That's a little bit unusual. Where did you get the answer from? This is something that I never thought anybody would find any interest in, and it was just simply a little experiment. But for those of you who use Respondus, you may know that Respondus also deploys something called StudyMate. I've gotten probably 6 serial 30-day trial versions over the past couple of years. I'm going to buy it, I promise. But you get the full version when you register your trial version, and you can do a lot with that with StudyMate. And so you can make crossword puzzles. You can make fill in the missing blanks, fill in a letter, matching. And the way you can do this is you happen to have a text-based quiz or something. You can actually pop it into StudyMate if it's Respondus formatted. And just let Respondus kind of do the work for you, or StudyMate. I would like to create a fill in the missing blank from my test data. That's the way in which I did a couple of these. And so the idea, of course, here after you explain it, which I would go into more detail in class, is, okay, so in critical thinking we discussed these 2 terms. What's a good expression for this? So you can do what you typically do. You'll click on this. This is not active. There is a link to it that if it's not there, I'll try to make sure it is there by the end of the presentation. So what you end up getting is barriers to critical thinking. You can look at the answer, you can go next. This is all for fun. Now, I thought that this would be so puerile a thing to do, an exercise that nobody would be interested in. When I stopped doing it, about midway through a semester, I had, I don't know how many students say, well, we finished off our regular quiz we finished off our reading, and we were looking forward to the crossword puzzle, the fill-in-the-blank. Where is it? And I was shocked, frankly, because it was just an experiment, and I don't know why I should have been shocked. I mean, gee, it's fun. It kind of does test your learning, your memory to some extent. It got all sorts of what I would call probideutic factors and aspects associated with recollection. And I had people that Sunday morning were telling me with the Register of Times crossword puzzle, they'd log into the class and go ahead and do the puzzle that was on the class, sometimes with their family and friends. Wow. I thought, gee, that's great. I never would have thought that something as simple or simplistic as this would have that effect. I thought that my extensive videos on how to do Venn diagrams would be more interesting, but I don't get that kind of response from those. So I've been in the process of working out a version of fill-in-the-blank that's fun. And you can even put music if you're clever about it in the background. I put Jeopardy music in the background sometimes, which is very annoying. But for those of you who ever watched Jeopardy, you know, it goes something like this. Da, 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 da. And I sometimes even do that if it's live, and boy, that encourages them to get the answer really quickly just to shut me up. There are all sorts of little things, actually, and I'm sorry, that's a bit of sarcasm, but it's kind of funny, and certainly true from my own experience. If you want to get your students to use some of your techniques, some of these things, one easy way to do it is if you happen to have a very recent version of Blackboard Learning Management System. It is so hyped up with wonderful assets. It's amazing. Underutilized, I'm getting the impression. You can have your students record a message or a posting with YouTube very easily, as long as they have a camera and they don't feel too uncomfortable doing it. Some of my students, even in this wonderful age of Facebook, are a little uncomfortable putting their face up in front of 50 or 60 other students. I understand that, particularly if they think they might get graded. So if a person is willing to undertake this, I will give them an announcer right up front a couple of extra kudo points for posting a video response. So the way you can do that, and I linked to a little video where somebody has done a pretty good job actually taking a series of screenshots showing how to do this. But if you have a Blackboard, and you could do this in other learning management systems too. It's not that hard, but it's just easier to do it because Blackboard makes it so convenient. But the overview would be to go to the discussion thread, click on the little record from webcam, and you'll get a message menu. The student will get a menu asking to allow access to the camera and the microphone. Once all of that is done and the person has a YouTube account, you've got to make that real clear up front that they're going to have to create an account or have an existing account and link to it and upload the file. But I tell them to kind of keep it short. You might want to script out what you want to say and then just pop it in there. Then what's fun to watch is a snowball effect of other students deciding, this isn't so bad. Somebody took the lead. I'm going to go ahead and respond with a little video. And of course, I allow them to do quite a bit. Suggest that if they want to take a very small clip of something and practice their hand at editing a little bit. Surprising enough, students pick up a lot of skills doing that. And apparently some of those skills that they pick up being compelled to do this helps them with other endeavors and projects that they have. And I think that's always wonderful when it works out that way. There is a video on the playlist. This gal did give me permission, by the way, to use her video. I'm not mentioning who she in fact is, what her identity is, but she was the first taker last semester, and she just did such a wonderful job describing a fallacy in advertising, the false appeal to authority. She used the vocabulary perfectly. I think she did this all within approximately 3 minutes. She later put another one up that actually illustrated what she was talking about in video format. It was perfect. I could not help but, as far as I'm concerned, but give her more points. Of course, I don't want to make anybody else in the discussion thread feel angst, but I just encourage other people to do this work and thank her profusely for taking the lead. She did end up getting a very good grade in the course for that and other reasons. You can have your students create YouTube, standalone YouTube as collaborative efforts or individual efforts. I think the why of it we've kind of gone into a little bit. I think it does encourage student participation. I think it provides a challenge for them. I think it is indeed falls under the rubric of what we're calling engagement. The question of how to do it, well, there's a lot of things you can do. And I'm certainly not going to go into all of them. Some of you probably had quite a bit of experience yourself with these things. One of my favorite applications of them all programs is Camtasia. Hope I can advertise this stuff. I hope nobody's upset about this. I'm not getting reimbursed for this. I just think it's wonderful. Get a trial version. It's free. Try it out if you haven't. You can render the final product in so many different formats. You can make it interactive. You can pop quizzes in a Flash-based format. You do have to have a place to store it or figure out how you're going to store it. It can be done on Blackboard easily. You can put it up on YouTube, like a YouTube video. Encourage students to discuss the video that you're done with. All sorts of wonderful things. YouTube, of course, iTunes, I use that to some extent. I have a bunch of podcasts up there, and I've had a couple of students contribute their podcasts to my podcast. If you want to really improve your audio significantly, or you have something you're splicing together in a way of audio, Audacity, it's free. I've always found it to work extremely well, but you know, the interface does require, I think, a little investigation at first. Blackboard Collaborate, certainly using that with, let us say, CCC Confer, scheduling a meeting where the students can actually get together and present. Great idea. When I do my movies, I use Pinnacle principally, but there are other software programs out there. There's still Movie Maker that's around. You can download that still for free. PowerPoint can be rendered into a fairly decent video. In fact, fairly high quality. You can take your PowerPoint presentation, narrate it, and turn it into an MP4 video. With other freebie programs, you can convert that if you need to. You can pop it up on YouTube and show it to people. That's all easily done. And I'm sorry, that would require a separate session to really go over, but there's a variety of links and information about how to do that. One that I kind of resisted for a while, but I'm going to have to tell you it's gotten good feedback, is Prezi. I resisted it, I suppose, simply because I'm so accustomed to a somewhat more linear way of making presentations with PowerPoint. Sometimes you do have to break out of an old habit. And just recently I was getting some comments on YouTube. I put a Prezi video up on how to do a paper, an ethics paper. And people not even in my class were commenting how helpful it was, and emailing me, and it seems to be one of the few videos that are up there that actually have quite a few views, rightly or wrongly. But what I did was take the Prezi concept and basically render it as a single standalone video. But the key to Prezi, of course, is to have people interact and go where they want, and it's kind of neat. So having that available is a good idea. As far as Collaborate Multimedia goes, I shouldn't say Collaborate, I should say collaboration with Multimedia. Again, with my Korean students, they were absolutely delighted to know that they were able to get credit for doing a video on a theme that emerged from our study of the humanities in the first chapter, the importance of mythology. And their facilitator, instructor, told me after my first session with the students that they were just absolutely enthused and excited that they would be able to get credit to collaborate together. There's a very small group of about 8 students. I understand that they, after giving them some specific instructions, how to do this, how to write a script, seemed to be pretty savvy. They sat down and wrote up a script, did a storyboard, and they decided to seize upon the concept of how important myth is to the culture of Korea. For me, it was actually a tremendous learning experience. I learned a whole bunch about I believe it's called the Dogon myth, about the creation of South Korea, where the people came from. And of course, when you hear the narration, which I hope you'll be able to go to in a playlist, you'll even get the sense of the drama that the student who narrated it tried to come up with. He has a very dramatic voice, wonderful attempt at trying to entertain and engage the student, and also me, the instructor. So apparently, in some of the other courses that they've been conducting, that has not been an option for them. In this particular case, it was really a good idea. Standalone individual personal multimedia project on critical thinking done at Coastline Community College. This wasn't so much a response to a discussion posting as it was just simply an extra credit effort to try to really seize upon some themes about fallacies in advertising and rhetoric, rhetorical devices. This ended up, again, it's on the playlist. All of these should be accessible from a single link to the 3C Media playlist. You'll see there that this person actually put some production values into it. Didn't so much narrate it, but actually showed some good scenes that incorporated critical thinking vocabulary on the call-outs that were put in there in the titling. Again, another great job, shared with the rest of the students, many of whom I thought really came to the belief toward the end of the semester that they too wish they had done that. One of the things that has been really exciting, not only for me, but for my students, is to be able to actually do something that is related to a major event that's taking place pretty much worldwide, at least for those of us in North America who were able to view it. In this particular case, it was the Eclipse of the Moon on April the 15th, 2014. I invited my critical thinking students at Cal State University of Mings Hill to join me at 12 o'clock midnight, actually 12:02, April the 15th is when the eclipse was full. I got the Blackboard Collaborate up and running from my course, my critical thinking course, about 2 hours before that time. It was a really international event because what I did was I screen shared what NASA was doing and what the people at the SLU telescope, which is a remote controlled telescope organization. And I also connected up a CCD camera, since I'm an amateur astronomer, of course this would be interesting to me, to my own telescope in the backyard. So this inset you see, and you see the whole thing, again from that playlist, is my own telescope here. And that little player button, unfortunately, is what I scanned. It's in front of it. But we were seeing the beginnings of the blood moon. In the chat area, I actually had, not terribly visible here, but about 5 or 6 students on with their parents, their kids, 12:02 in the morning. I didn't expect anybody to show up. And then what they were doing was sharing not only their view in Southern California of the moon. Fortunately, it was a nice clear night for them. But some of them were logged into the Griffith Park Observatory telescope, and we were doing desktop sharing. I was sharing what NASA was doing as the night progressed, and indeed what I was doing. And some people were trying to use their cameras on their own telescopes, which is not easy to do without the right interface. But once again, all of this that I'm showing you, I hope it's of marginal interest to you. Give you some ideas if you haven't gone there before as to what you can do. To describe in more detail what SLU is, it is a virtual telescope organization. I bought a membership. I believe it's $20 quarterly. It allows me, when I have bad conditions for viewing, to log in and remotely control the telescope on the Canary Islands. Now, this all came together very nicely for this particular event, but there are many other events. They just did one with a rather dud event with a camelopargalid meteor shower you might have seen some news about. That one didn't go anywhere, but we have done stuff with the Perseid meteor shower, with comets, things like this. And you get, professional astronomers narrating. And by using Collaborate, I can bring all my class and those astronomers together all in one setting. Now, I was related to the subject matter, so we were doing critical thinking about perspectives, paradigms, how worldviews change, and shifting modalities about how it is that we have come to understand the universe, astronomy, and our place in it. So it all fits. Students, by the way, if you're wondering, do I take any official polls? I have done a couple, but with their comments that they send me, including members of the family. In one instance, I've had, a couple of instances actually, I've had mothers with their children who have taken my class, and the children are sitting and watching what's going on, and they're just as curious as anybody could be, and they're participating as well. Some of the things I like to do, I'm kind of a hobbyist kind of person, so I have done a couple of International Space Station events. I think it's of interest to you just in case you want to go to the Amateur Radio in Space, ISS, ARISS website, and maybe schedule something for your class. It's good for K through 12. It's good for college level university. They just, NASA people have a great educational facility. This is more along the lines of ham radio communicators. But either way, you know, I've used a cheap homebrew, like a $10 antenna made out of tape, you know, measuring tape, which is what that one is right there, and actually communicated, or at least heard the downlink from the International Space Station passing overhead. It does require you have some free software, all sorts of interesting things you can get for free. And one of the events that we scheduled back in December 2012 was a telebridge run through a station in Italy talking to astronaut Kevin Ford in real time. And of course the idea in this particular case is to have these young school children prepare a curriculum, really, of their own and ask questions of the astronauts as the astronauts are passing within an orbital window. So that's all on the playlist as well. You might find it interesting, the sophistication of the questions that these kids were asking. Talk about engagement. We had parents, teachers, everybody was dedicated to this common cause, and they were also incorporating into their lesson plans anything they had to do with the International Space Station and electronic communication. And then that one too was run live on Collaborate, so that my own students and other people who were interested would be able to see it. So I'm going to be winding down here. It looks like I'm coming upon about the last 10 minutes of my presentation here, so I'll make it quick. To arrange contact with the International Space Station, you're going to want to go to a website that I'm going to see if it's hyperlinked here for just a moment. I think I can pop that one for sure in there. I do have it available. I'm just going to put this in there. I think you ought to take a look at it if you really want to stimulate some interest, but you have to prepare way in advance. Looks like that's a duplicate, so it's there. If you go to that website, the ARRL.org, it'll tell you what you need to do. You can become a NASA educator. You can work it out with all age groups. We've had highly sophisticated questions that were run back and forth between the International Space Station astronauts. It is an official part of the NASA program, so it is regarded as a kind of an experiment. We had a University of Alaska synchronous field, what I call a synchronous field activity, again using the SLU Canary Island telescope. That one was just simply a freebie. I was talking about Piaget at the time, and had gone ahead and scheduled an event in hopes that skies would be clear over Canary Islands. And the good news about this is, once again, we had family members, students participating. We were able to take pictures all together using the remote telescope of the spin wheel galaxy. And I think we also saw the Eagle Nebula that night. And the beauty of it is that the students were able to download the pictures that they had taken through their own remote control of that telescope and then talk about it. And because of the way in which the camera is set up, I was able to talk about the perceptual nature, how we fill in the missing blank, so to speak, when we're looking at an object, how sometimes when perception doesn't seem to be taking place as we think it ought to, how looking at an object askance, as opposed to directly right on, actually enables you to see, oddly enough, more clearly. We talked about Gestalt psychology and how maybe at a certain developmental level, a child might actually be able to see what an adult can, quote-unquote, see through experience and training. So, again, it all fits in, and we had tons of student commentary about that. Not an official part of the syllabus of the course, and it seems like, oddly enough, some of those things that aren't really woven into the syllabus end up being the most interesting things that we do. So, the beauty about the internet, among many other things, is that you can be pretty much ready to go at the drop of a hat, And so I certainly think that sometimes when the occasion arises, you might be using Collaborate to make your official presentation. having a little flexibility to be able to bring something else in at the right time. Just kind of prepare for it, premeditate it a little bit, and it can work out really well. There were some student presentations. I principally use Collaborate for my Alaska students to do their final presentation. A couple of the students felt a little uncomfortable using YouTube or anything else, so I taught them how to use Collaborate. And you will see a link to that as well. To do their final presentations on one case pathology, in another case the DSM issue about eating disorders like bulimia. So those are also available for you to peruse if you wish. And if you do, I hope you kind of enjoy it. I think the students just did a marvelous professional job. Another reason to get them to take on this task is that they become the teacher. It has been said previously that you learn a lot more when you, if not the most you learn, when you're actually asked to teach something. So this gives students the opportunity to be able to show what they know or to learn what they need to know in order to be able to handle the task of actually completing a project like this. So once again, I'm very pleased with what they were able to do. And even though they resisted it a little bit, a little discomfort level with what was going on, what I was requiring of them, they got it. So putting a little bit of healthy stress and pressure on them without it causing serious angst is, the thing that you have to work out. I end here with a historical moment. I had mentioned this to E.G., the OT moderator, that years ago, when I decided I was going to at least spend some of my year in Sedona, I was working with NASA video conferencing people at the Houston Space Flight Center using the good old Integrated Systems Digital Network that really ran very well. For all I know, maybe some people still use it. I think it was fairly common to use it, certainly in the Cal State system, up until about 2006, 2007. Now I think they just primarily use their high bandwidth internet for the same kinds of things. But I'd set up some programs in what later became the model classroom. I was a mentor teacher with them. The reason I'm showing you this is because this is a historical example of fairly extreme engagement on the parts of the students. And in this particular situation, I always think to have this ISDN line connected up to the number for the Houston Space Flight Center. And just as my students were going home during the day, the principal, one Dr. Susan Connery, called me up and said, we've got some dignitaries here. We got the district supervisor just came in to see what was going on. We also have a board of directors here. Is there anything you can show them as they're coming up the stairs? So this just goes to show how neat the NASA people were. I immediately dialed the number, thinking I wasn't going to get anybody, didn't schedule anything. And this gentleman comes up and says, hey, Doug. I mean, it was actually really serendipitous as these people are stepping through the doorway of the classroom, and all of a sudden somebody from NASA says, oh, hi, Doug, how are you? That was unplanned for, unpremeditated. And I said, I hope this isn't asking too much. Can you give these two gentlemen a brief tour of the Houston Space Flight Center, biggest swimming pool in the world? He did, right there. Gave a truncated version for 5 minutes. Now, I had to share that because that was a really interesting moment where just everything works out. Often things don't work out well. But even way back when, it's possible to do things that we can now do much more easily now with organizations like the NASA Educators and others, and actually have your students, because of that, become much, much more involved with the video, the ability to be able to interact, ask questions, and all sorts of stuff. So I would certainly want to encourage people to look that over if they haven't thought about it. Now I think we're a little more, I didn't count because I think today I probably have numerical dyslexia of some sort, but I think I gave you more than 5 ways. But hopefully at least that. And I think that if I were to try to sum this up just very generally, I think you can improve student engagement by the use, as we've kind of tried to demonstrate here, multimedia presentations, multimedia opportunities. I think you can wake up your discussion boards with students so that they get out of what many of my colleagues report, get into the canned modality. you give a posting, you want your student to respond, seriously to a discussion question, and you get a couple of sentences of almost, sometimes it seems, without disparaging their efforts, fairly token responses. I think the video actually, I'm not saying it's going to solve all problems, but I think it actually is a wake-up. I think it makes people concentrate a little more, and yet still be as spontaneous as they need to be. And wakes up and warms up a discussion thread when the students can actually kind of get a feel for who their classmates are, at least a little bit more. Talked just now about live virtual events. I think if you schedule those in an appropriate way, or try to prepare yourself to do that spontaneously, that'll work out. And I'm very much an aficionado of Blackboard Collaborate. I think in one fell swoop, it kind of solves problems about having the right software and this kind of thing. I mean, you can get online and do a pretty decent presentation using PowerPoint or screen sharing, desktop sharing, just as long as you provide your students with opportunities to be able to understand how to use it. So now, again, I want to thank OTC, Online Teaching Conference. I'm going to miss beautiful downtown San Diego this year. Thanks again, OT. Thank you to the captioner. Hope you got some of that. I know I tend to talk kind of quickly, I'm told, at times. And appreciate very much all that you do for the instructors and the students. Take good care. If you happen to look at this and perhaps want to give me an email or something, I'd be more than happy to try to respond to any inquiries or anything that needs further clarification. I think that the main website that might not be up there, so I might have a minute or two here. Let me make sure that the 3C Media playlist for this presentation is certainly there. I apologize if it's duplicated. But the one that says 3C Media, that will be sort of the reference for this. So thank you. I guess that ends our presentation, and thank you for allowing me to participate. Take good care.